Welcome to Should I Read It? Should I Read It is a weekly podcast that takes a deep dive into books. I'll provide a summary of the book and tell you how the ideas in the book relate across all the books we've covered so far. Today we're departing a bit from a full book review because not all books are suited specifically to a review. Some of them are just fun or informational. They provide little direction to evaluate and then communicate later. We're going to look at a bunch of books I've read in the last year that I've enjoyed for various reasons. Some are fiction and some are historical. Buckle up. Let's start by looking at The Fish That Ate the Whale. This is a story of the banana industry in the 1930s to 1950s and the story of the guy that changed it in so many ways. His name is Samuel Zemurray. During this time, the United States grew from a small power to the juggernaut that we know today. Zemurray, or Sam the Banana Man as some called him, rose from humble origins into a rich and powerful man. A rise that was punctuated by revolutionary thinking and hustle. A rise that was also due to his willingness to engage in some of the less than savory parts of an industry. The end of this rise is also marked by corruption on the level of overthrowing South American governments. Tactics like purchasing a retired U.S. warship and then selling it to a regional guerrilla group so that Zemurray didn't violate U.S. law, dealing with helping in the overthrow of governments by a U.S. national. Of course, Zemurray clandestinely was funding the guerrillas anyway because if they'd won, he'd get the land concessions he needed to keep bananas profitable. Looking back, there are so many things that Zemurray did that are terrible. But there's also a spark of genius and brashness that is amazing. When he's not allowed to build a bridge due to the government being influenced by his competition, he builds two really long piers. Of course, he can quickly throw up a floating section of the piers so that he has a bridge, but it's not actually a bridge though, so he's in the clear. All in all, it was an interesting read and look at a volatile time in American history that I wasn't familiar with at all. Next up is Barracoon. Barracoon is the name of a structure where they'd hold future slaves in Africa. This book was written in 1927, but only recently released. It was delayed so long for many different reasons. At times it was viewed as a book that wouldn't help the equality movements because of how it showed the black on black violence in Africa. See, the person being interviewed was Cudjo Lewis, and he remembers being attacked by another tribe and then taken into slavery. The tribe that attacked them seems to have mostly existed, at least during this time, to find defense with other people and then capture them for the slave trade. At other times, this book was viewed as a poor book to publish because of the dialect that Cudjo speaks. It's heavily accented English. I didn't find it that hard to understand, but I certainly did have to slow down to read it. The author Zora Neale Hurston refused to change the manner in which Lewis speaks, so people just wouldn't publish it. Barracoon is a story of the last slave ship to sail from Africa to America. It sailed long after the slave trade was illegal in America. You could own a slave, but you couldn't purchase new slaves brought in from Africa. It follows how the men that put the ship together got to know each other, how they worked to conceal the shipment by doing so much work at night and then scuttling the ship. It also relates much of the anguish that the people brought from Africa felt when they realized they'd never have enough money to get back to their home. Barracoon is an excellent read to gain a better understanding of what slavery looked like at that time. Now, the Expanse series. This series is the amalgamation of two authors, both Daniel Abraham and Ty Franck write the series together. It's a space series with some mysterious biological matter acting as a catalyst for a few factions of humans. Earth and Mars are the main powers in the solar system. They have peace, but it's got some tension in it. Then we have the rest of humanity that mostly serves to get resources back to the two big powers. Later novels end up with our mysterious biological matter infesting Venus, creating pathways to travel across space in an instant, and lots of space battles. This is excellent science fiction. The Day of the Triffids. I first read this book in high school, and it was one of the books that cemented my love for science fiction. There are these really tall plants that, among their many medical benefits, can walk around and have fairly huge stingers that they can whip out at you. Our protagonist has been tending them for years in the great farms that are all walled off from everyone else. When he was young and they weren't sure what triffids really were, they were just some plant in the garden, he was stung by a young one. This has meant that he's got some of the best immunity around their stings. As an adult, he gets stung and ends up in the hospital with his head all wrapped up as he waits for his vision to come back. During this time, there's some weapon discharged into the sky, which burns out all retina of the people that have viewed the spectacular light show. This leaves the majority of the population of Britain, which is where the book takes place, and presumably the Earth without sight. The Triffids are suddenly free to roam. They don't have eyes, and effectively they become the dominant predator on Earth.
where humans must build compounds to stay safe and have some type of barely there existence. This book explores how our main character survives and builds his compound to get through the Day of the Triffids. The Frontier Saga. Now, this is another space drama which is amazing. Rick Brown builds a great universe. Earth was a power, but then there's a biodigital plague that knocked us back generations. Humans had already colonized many parts of space, so not everyone was affected equally. We meet Earth as it tests out a super secret new jump drive that will allow ships to jump from one point to the next in an instant. Well, there's a traitor, and an attack, and a malfunction, and our ship is cast so much further than it expected. It's sent right into the battle in a totally different solar system. We get to watch the pilot become a capable captain, because the captain and all the command staff die. Our crew become accustomed to working with a bare skeleton of people. They make deals with foreign powers, overthrow authoritarian governments, and then they get back to Earth and, well, we'll just leave the spoilers out for now. It's a great book. I'm on section 2 of the series, which is 15 books, and I just finished section 1 as I wrote this, so excellent book, excellent set of 15 books. Now, Acaria. I went to a local author book reading and found this first-time author's book, and it was pretty dang good. We meet our protagonist, Acaria, in her town just before an attack. She runs off into the forest and is just called towards this hidden dragon egg. The egg hatches, she bonds with the dragon. She gets taken to the king, and then she has to learn how to battle with the dragon because she's really the savior now. The book ending surprised me. It made me cry a little bit. It has me waiting for the second book, which I know is out to her test readers because one serves me coffee. He says he has it. Now, the book did feel a bit rushed. I'd love to see her go deeper into the relationships and the world next time, but it's not just a good first book, it's a good book. Into the Lion's Mouth. Have you ever wondered where the ideas for James Bond came from? Well, look no further, my friend, than the true story of Dusko Popov. Popov was a spy and a patriot that willingly risked his life during World War II in some crazy situations. He gambled with bad guys and won. He knew he was likely caught in his deception and willingly went back into the lion's den only to talk himself out. He likely did some killing as well, though it's not actually spoken of. A few people just seem to disappear. Yes, the author of James Bond knew him and worked with him several times. While James Bond is fantasy, you're going to see some of the famous James Bond scenes played out for real in Popov's life. If you're like me, you're going to be a bit astonished that he'd head back in knowing the likelihood of death unless he had a very, very lucky day. Now, while I do read a lot of business and self-help books, there is so much out there that's good for your brain. I didn't even highlight all the amazing stuff I've been reading this year. Make sure, don't just stick to self-improvement titles. Read it further, read wider, and you're going to be better for it. Next week, we will jump back in with our regular self-improvement books.
This episode of Should I Read It is brought to you by my latest book, The Art of Focus. If you're tired of running around trying different ideas and getting no traction, if you are tired of having ideas, but you never actually get to work on them, if you're just tired, then The Art of Focus is for you. It's going to give you the exact systems I've used to build my ideal life, set up my times that I can really work and get lots done in the 6 hours a day that I work most days, and test my ideas in the marketplace so that I know they succeed. You can purchase it on Amazon at curtismchale.ca/recommends/AOF. Thanks for listening to Should I Read It? To support the show, you can leave me a review in iTunes or a heart or a star in whatever podcast player you use. These help more people find the show. If you want to get more reading done, you should get an Audible membership. If you use curtismchale.ca/recommends/audible, that will help the production of the show financially.